North Sentinel is a small forested island roughly the size of Manhattan. Here exists the most isolated tribe in the world, the Sentinelese. This tribe has managed to be one of the few remaining uncontacted tribes in existence today. The Sentinelese have made it very clear they wish to keep it that way. Deadly encounters with the Sentinelese. In November 2018, an American missionary, John Chau, was killed by the Sentinelese tribe during his mission to expose them to Christianity. Chau, born in Alabama but raised in Vancouver and Washington, fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. Growing up, he had a deep appreciation for his Christian faith, adventure, and the outdoors. He was constantly pushing himself to extremes and was a stereotypical overachiever. With this mix of personality traits, it was almost inevitable that Chau would find himself working as a missionary. He first learned about the Sentinelese during high school while investigating a missionary project called the Joshua Project. This Christian organization's goal is to coordinate missionary work and track the ethnic groups of the world with the fewest followers of Christianity. On their website, Chau would read about the Sentinelese and how they are described as an extremely isolated tribe. Here, he would also learn that the Indian government bans all access to the North Sentinel. Chau's father believes his son was corrupted by extreme Christian ideology. On the other hand, Chau believed it was his mission to provide basic health care and enlighten the Sentinelese about the existence of God. In 2015 and 2016, Chau took 4 trips to North Sentinel's neighboring islands, the Andaman Islands. Despite these islands being very close to North Sentinel, Chau never visited. During a late night in a computer lab, a friend of Chau recalls him speaking of his burden to save the Sentinelese. In October of 2017, Chau once again booked a flight to the Andaman Islands, where he settled into what he referred to as a safe house. There, he would put together an initial contact response kit. This included tweezers, safety pins, fishhooks, and picture cards for communication. Chau was a diligent note-taker and documented his activities in a handwritten diary. After a self-imposed 11-day quarantine, he and some fellow Christian fishermen set out under the cover of night for North Sentinel. They had to be careful to avoid coast guards, as any access to North Sentinel was strictly prohibited by the Indian government. They eventually reached the North Sentinel Island the next morning on November 15th, where Chau would make his first approach. The fisherman he was with refused to get any closer, so Chau was left to his own to paddle a kayak towards the island. Chau stripped down to his underwear in an effort to make the Sentinelese feel more at ease and paddled towards a wooden hut. He was met by several Sentinelese with their faces painted yellow and shouting in high-pitched sounds. Chau shouted back from his kayak, "My name is John, I love you, and Jesus loves you." The tribe members began stringing their bows. Panicked, Chau threw some fish that he had brought as a gift towards the tribe members, and as he described in his own words, turned and paddled like I never have in my life. Later the same day, Chau made another attempt. This time armed with more gifts, he approached the same hut as previously. The tribe members whooped and shouted at him in high-pitched noises. He tried to imitate their sounds back and was met with laughter from the Sentinelese. Chau deduced that the tribe members were most likely insulting him or saying bad words. He sang gospel songs from the Bible, and for a moment the Sentinelese seemed to endure his presence there. That was until a young boy shot an arrow at Chau, striking a Bible he was carrying. The tribe members commandeered Chau's kayak, forcing him to swim a mile back to the anchored fishing vessel. Back safely in the fishing vessel, Chau ominously writes in his diary that he was scared and crying a little. He also pondered if he would make it out alive, writing, "Watching the sunset and it's beautiful, wondering if it'll be the last sunset I see before being in the place where the sun never sets." Excerpts from Chau's diary really help illustrate his conviction. He writes, "You guys might think I'm crazy in all this, but I think it's worth it to declare Jesus to these people." And he refers to the Sentinelese as possibly being Satan's last stronghold. Chau's decided that he should make his next attempt without the fishing vessel floating nearby. His thinking was that appearing alone would make the Sentinelese more comfortable. He also accurately foreshadowed his death, writing in his diary that if he made this next approach alone and things went badly, it would spare the fishermen from having to bear witness to his death. It was obvious that Chau didn't want to die, but knew that it was a realistic possibility. "I think I could be more useful alive, but to you, God, I give all the glory of whatever happens," he wrote in his diary. Around dawn on November 16th, he asked the fisherman to be dropped off alone. According to the fisherman, Chau was killed by an arrow and his body was buried somewhere along the beach. Attempts to retrieve his body were abandoned when anthropologists urged authorities not to make any contact with the tribe, as this could possibly expose the tribe to fatal diseases. In the aftermath of Chau's death, 7 people who aided Chiao with access to the Sentinelese were arrested by the Indian government. This isn't the only deadly encounter between the Sentinelese and outsiders. In January 2006, Sundar Raj and Pandit Tiwari were killed after their boat had drifted towards the North Sentinel Island. The 2 fishermen were believed to be drunk on palm wine when their watercraft beached on the island shore. Other fishermen in the area described the incident, saying the 2 were attacked and killed by naked tribal warriors wielding axes. Following this incident, the families of the deceased were split into 2 camps. Pandit Tiwari's father believes that his son was justly murdered by the Sentinelese. He is quoted as saying, "My son Pandit got his own justice. He was breaking the law, poaching and trespassing on land that wasn't his own, and he was murdered. What more is there to say?" He goes on to say that his only wish is to recover the body of his son and give him a proper burial. When the India Coast Guard sent a helicopter to possibly retrieve the bodies, the Sentinelese made it clear that landing was not an option for the helicopter crew. The aircraft was met with a barrage of arrows from the Sentinelese warriors. Although the downward draft from the helicopter exposed the 2 shallow graves of the deceased fishermen, their bodies were plagued with cuts from axes and machetes. Sundar Raj's wife was not so understanding of her husband's death. She demanded a policy investigation into the murders and expected prosecution. She pleaded, "My husband has been murdered and nobody is left to care for me and my family. The government and police have washed their hands of this matter. Nobody seems to want to offend the tribe, but 2 men have been killed. We want the bodies to be retrieved and the police to arrest the murderers. Whether my husband was poaching or not, he didn't deserve to be killed with an axe." The international community doesn't appear to be on her side. Numerous governments and organizations' number 1 priority is the preservation of the Sentinelese tribe. The retrieval of a body or further investigation into the death of these fishermen could expose the tribe to contagious diseases they have no immunity to, potentially wiping out the tribe entirely. In the 13th century, explorer Marco Polo described the Sentinelese as a violent and cruel generation who seem to eat everybody they catch. The Sentinelese have remained mostly isolated for over 60,000 years. Their preservation, in part, has been aided by their violence towards outsiders. Unfortunately, this trait also makes the tribe very hard to study. For instance, the exact population of the tribe is unknown. Most estimates place their population between 50 and 100 members. As curious as civilization is about the Sentinelese, the overall consensus is that the tribe should be left uncontacted and protected. The Indian government has taken steps to achieve this goal. Photographing or filming of the tribal members has been proclaimed illegal. The 5-kilometer coastline of the North Sentinel Island has been designated as a tribal reserve. Coast Guard vessels are ever present along the island to help maintain the safety and preservation of the tribe for decades to come. Thanks for watching.